heads to COTA. We got left turns, we got right turns, plus all the DFS and betting picks you need for a successful road course weekend. Let's get at it.
It's a non-points race, but it is a short race. Checkered flag. That's all this
Thanks for riding on down the back road with us, folks. I'm Elliot Hicks, back with you this week. Seth Woolcock here as always, and this week our special guest is Chris Werme of the Stay Green podcast, also a part of Bet the Board with Todd Furnham. Good to have you back, Chris. Thanks for hopping on with us.
Thanks. I hopped on with you guys, I don't know, mid-season last year, kind of right when the podcast launched. I think I was, kind of my first appearance on a separate podcast. So I appreciate you guys having me back.
Wow, I didn't realize we were your first. Not bad.
Absolutely, man. Anytime you can pop a little cherry, that's a good news. And good to have you back, Chris. You've been out there hitting the streets hard this year, and it's really good. Just I feel like overall to have someone who does this for a full-time living in this space and kind of break it down. Give us a little shit when we need to hear it, man.
Well, yeah, that's I just look at it differently. When you have to pay the bills, when you do this, it's a different outlook, but it doesn't mean my way is the right way or the wrong way. It's just, hey, I have to make money doing this. So I look at things just slightly differently, but it doesn't, you get out of it whatever you put into it. So if you're just looking to have fun and, you kind of have a budget set aside, that's fine too. I just look at it like, hey, if we're here, we might as well make some money.
There we go. Are you rocking shades inside too?
I'm rocking blue light blockers. Yeah, I stare at screens all day long. And so, yeah, the sun never sets on a badass. So I guess I'll just stick to that. But the blue light just kind of gets to me. It's hard to fall asleep when you're staring at screens. You're doing podcasts kind of later in the evening. I'd rather just look like a dork and then sleep like a baby.
There we go. There we
That's
go.
A smart idea. After the show, I may need to hit you up for some recommendations. I oftentimes stare at screens a little too much also. And
yeah, these are great.
That is the fun part about the NASCAR community. Some of us are just throwing around some beer money, and others we're making a living off of it. So nice to have some different perspectives once in a while. I know we're all excited for COTA, but before we get there, we got to look in the rear view toward our Atlanta bets and see how they went. Seth, it looks like you're a pretty mixed card for last week in Atlanta.
Yeah, this was an example of sometimes you can put all the research in, you can make the right bets, but as these super speedway type tracks do, I know it's not a full super speedway, they can kind of bite you in the ass. And that's what happened. And Chris, I know you don't bet these super speedways because of this issue, but we were profitable. We walked away with profit. DFS, we had a really good week. Had a lot of Brad Keselowski out there, Eric Jones, Corey LaJoie, man, he came through for us big, both in DFS and betting. Had a lot of matchups with him that he came through. And then, like I said, Eric Jones, awesome week for him. But we did hit some hiccups. Bowman, your guy got screwed right at the end, Elliot. But we did make benefit of that Eric Jones last second run as well. So, hey, we walk away with profit at these bigger tracks. That's really all we can ask for here, man.
Yeah, no doubt about that. So, Chris, you had really nothing out there worth noting for Atlanta?
I did have Corey LaJoie top 5.
Okay, bud. Okay,
like
bud.
7.5 or 8-1. We gave out on the podcast, and I just can't help myself. There's a reason why I purposefully don't watch these races, because it does not matter the situation. I can turn on a race and try to find a live bet. And sure enough, I watched the last 50 laps and I'm like, man, Logano looks like he has the best car. And I just, maybe made a couple of live bets on Logano. I did not make very much money. I mean, just like 1/10 of a unit, but just for fun. It was nice to kind of have Corey LaJoie get into the top 5 there for that 7.5 or 8-1, and then to just sneak in. Like, I think I had Logano at like 4-1. Every time I bet him, he would change, so it's like, all right, 6-1, denied, 5-1, denied, 4-1. Okay, went through, perfect. So it was fun to just kind of watch and relax and actually care with almost $0 in play. It was kind of nice to have that.
Yeah, and that was almost like what I felt like was probably the best move last week. It was kind of honestly a snoozer of a race until those last 50 to 100 laps with Brad holding the lead there. It was fun to watch, and I was kind of on the wrong side of that situation. Like I said, in DFS, had a lot of Brad. I think I could have taken home a couple tournaments if he would have got that W. But all in all, like, did you guys enjoy this race here in Atlanta? It's different, and we heard a lot of mixed opinions going into it, whether it was going to be a full-blown super speedway again or if it wasn't going to be.
Yeah, I mean, I was iffy on this race. I'm a big fan of super speedway races usually, but I like to look at the positives of things, and it was just cool how the broadcast really emphasized just how good TJ Majors is spotting for Brad Keselowski. Just the wealth of information he throws at him. Every single run that comes, he's in Brad's ear. That's why, Dale Jr. was a great super speedway racer. He wouldn't have won all of those races without TJ Majors in his ear in his later career, really just helping him out on the super speedways there. Which runs to take? How do you block? Reminiscent seeing that top and bottom line blocking of that old 88 car back out front almost 10 years ago now. Wow.
Yeah, I think the addition of like Door Bumper Clear becoming a very more mainstream NASCAR podcast, you kind of get the inside track on what spotters are doing. And I think, man, they provide so much information. And because I don't tune into super speedway racing very often, I don't get to see kind of that stuff. And man, just the amount of information. What did they say? Like TJ, if he was paid by the word, he'd be a millionaire or something like that. Because I mean, it was nonstop, run coming outside, block down the inside, run come, and he has help, just the amount of information that Brad was getting as the leader was just incredible. And for you to, Elliot, to bring that up about why Dale Jr. was so good, I mean, that's a pretty strong point there. So I didn't even think about that. Here we are giving all this credit to Dale Jr. for being a great super speedway racer, when we should be giving it to TJ Majors for being such a great spotter.
Yeah, I mean, early career, he didn't have TJ up there, but later, the 2014 Daytona 500 and some of those later wins in 15, that was all TJ. And it's still fun to go back and listen to those races and hear that wealth of information that's given. And no surprise, these guys like the podcast. They really do have the gift of gab.
Yes.
All right.
Speaking of the gift of gab, we got Rory in the chat already saying big perm, making fun of Worm's hair. Worm, what's in that hair? I'll give you a little plug.
Oh, yeah.
What makes it the big perm?
Yeah, Atlas Hair Products. Yeah, I got a little side gig, little hair product company. Got 4 pucks. Go to atlashair.com. I don't know. Maybe I should just make like a NASCAR like discount code. That way for everybody that kind of watches, give them 20% off and some free shipping. I don't know that it can help Rory. I mean, it's only hair product. It's not a magic wand. It can't just make him beautiful. But, after a couple of Busch lattes, anybody will look good. Right, Rory?
Yeah, 10 real quick for us over here. Rory, we appreciate you tuning in, man. We appreciate everyone tuning in. If you guys are new to the channel, please give us this video a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel, come back and hang out with us again. And if you subscribe right now, we got a little Keyshawn Nixon giveaway. Let us know in the chat that you're subscribed. We have a Keyshawn Nixon signed Packers Salute to Service helmet we're giving away when we hit 400 subs just here in a couple weeks, hopefully. So get involved with that. Best kick return in the league. You want to make sure you're involved with that. And Elliot, let's go ahead and let's move forward here to the Horizon forecast and talk a little bit about my favorite track on the circuit, possibly in COTA.
Hey, Michael, it was only 20% chance of rain. I think we got all 20.
Seth, man, you make a good point. COTA really is one of my favorite tracks on the circuit now. 20 turns. It's nearly a 3.5-mile track. It's relatively new to the Cup Series. This is only the 3rd Cup race that'll be here. And the most unique part, and probably my favorite part this weekend, is there's not going to be staged cautions. It'll be the first organic road course race, I believe, since 2016 in the series. That's really going to affect things a lot more than we think that it will, I believe.
Oh, yeah. This completely changes the way you have to, I think, look at this race. Probably they're going to be working backwards on the clock. Probably about a 2-stop race is what we're looking at. Chris, is that kind of what you're factoring in for this no stage break racing?
Yeah, it'll be it will be, you work backwards until there's a caution that kind of falls in a window or outside of a window. I still think that there are guys that, if there's a caution that's in the window but hasn't quite hit, a stage break, you might see guys, especially race winning cars. I think you'll see them forfeit that track position in order to get the win. But guys that maybe have, a 14th or 15th place car that would just be happy to steal some stage points or a playoff point, I think that they'll stay out. But, it will be a two-stop race, in my opinion, unless there's kind of funky cautions or tire fall off. There was a time when, at Sonoma, they were talking about 3-stop in a race or 4-stop in a race with tire fall off, So new tire this week. I'm guessing they're going to work their way backwards, but everyone has a plan until they get punched in the mouth. And once that happens, everything changes. So that's kind of my anticipation, but I think you're right. They're going to work their way backwards. Just get in your window. I think you'll see everyone, once they're in their window, pit just to be safe. And then from there could be some alternate strategies.
Elliot, are you weighing pit stops at all this week and just like avoiding people who maybe have some bad luck in the pits, i.e. Kyle Busch? I mean, he's been the poster boy for this all season. Are you worried that he's obviously a favorite, so the books don't care, but are you fading those guys who could get in trouble with some pit road issues?
See, that's an interesting point that you bring up. I hadn't really thought of that. And to be honest, it's not going to affect my decision-making at all, really. You said it yourself. Bad luck in the pits, not necessarily bad pit crews or anything. Luck can change. I talked about luck a little bit in my Through the Field column that's out on inbetweenmedia.com if you take a look. I talked about physics a little bit too, so if you want a little bit of a physics lesson, you can look that up. That is kind of interesting, but I do think, week by week, these pit crews, especially with crews that are not so good lately, or drivers like Kyle Busch maybe getting speeding penalties a little too often, you're looking at races like this as a chance to maybe change your luck. So not really something I'm factoring in, but maybe some of our other listeners will.
Okay. And what we are factoring in tonight for at least Ellie and I's model, it's going to be the 2022 COTA average speed ranking and finishes, the overall road course average speed rankings as well. COTA 2022 fastest drivers late in the run. I think that's going to be really important here. Who can do better on that long run? Recent performance a little bit, and I think we do need to slightly weigh that rain-filled race back in 2021. Not much, but I think there's a little bit to take away from it. Of course, those speed rankings are from iFantasy Race. Chris, what do you think about what we're factoring? Is there anything you would add or take out of that batch?
Yeah, I'm not like a big average speed guy, just because I feel like that's so correlated with running position. Typically, even guys that have race winning cars, well, let's just use last year's COTA, for example. The car that could pass the best was arguably AJ Allmendinger. He started in the rear. And remember, after this race, we're like, oh, holy shit, we're going to be able to pass all year on this road course. Like, these road courses, the package is great. The car is going to be awesome. And little did we know that there was like never a pass again on a road course until Chris Bell took tires at the Roval. So I would say average speed is tough because he's there. Allmendinger's probably average speed wasn't great early in the run, but he was passing a lot of cars. And I think that, at times you can get caught up there. I do think, obviously, just road course as a whole, the history there, kind of as a macro, not necessarily individual race like, COTA. I just think you look at that. I would throw away some Sonoma, as I feel like that's super technical relative to some of these other longer road courses. But for the most part, I mean, you got to use your eyeballs. And I think that average green flag speed is another way of just using your eyeballs, like who is fast relative to the field, whether they're running fast laps in 20th or running their fast laps in first or second. So, but yeah, I still think there's a lot of unknowns this year with current form. For example, let's take a guy like Kyle Busch, a rocket at Fontana, goes out there and wins, probably the second best car, third best car. If Larson, I still thought Chastain was a little better than him there. And Larson could have been just incredible. We just don't know. But then he kind of disappears at Vegas and Phoenix, like practices pretty terrible, but gets in an incredible qualifying position for the car that I thought he had. Now, what's going to happen this year in the 8? I just don't know. This Tyler Reddick, the 45 versus the 8 this week.
Yes.
The biggest. I'm so excited.
I agree.
What happens, and we're going to know on Friday, like, who's going to be better, because everyone's talking about Kyle Busch is just going to thump everybody in the 8, but we just have not seen speed out of that car like we're used to seeing. after, or well, that we thought we might see after Fontana. So if you just look at current form, it's really tough to argue Kyle Larson. He's good on road courses. He hasn't had a ton of success at this track. But if you've got speed, and they're going to qualify well. And if you're out front and you stay out of trouble, you're going to be up front kind of all day with a chance to win in a late restart. So I think it'll be interesting to see what happens with the dynamic of William Byron, who's been an okay road course racer, but has been shot out of a cannon this year. So that's kind of what I'm just looking at. But, like I said, I'm just not a huge green flag speed guy, but maybe that's because I just use my eyes and they're the same thing. I think that's what I would take away from this.
Elliot, are you going to be placing any bets, setting any lines before practice and qualifying? Because obviously that matters a whole lot more here at road courses than some of these ovals we go to.
Yeah, I mean, there are some bets, if I really like the odds, they're definitely worth looking at. But having that practice and qualifying is so important. We talked a little bit. We were on the flag hunting podcast a couple of days ago, Seth. I'm not sure if it's out yet or not. We talked a little bit about just how important practice and qualifying is. We were a little worried about the Toyotas, maybe we were hot on some drivers. Some drivers we just really needed to wait and see how the odds shook out. But Seth, I tell you what, if you're ready, let's keep this individual driver momentum going and hop over to our tire tiers.
Yeah, just want to shout out the chat. We got Toronto Dave in here from up north. Good to see you, Dave. Thanks for tuning in tonight, buddy. And then we got Derek saying Friday weather. He's not liking it. He's not liking it. I didn't realize
there was rain chance this weekend. Damn.
Yeah, they pointed this out last night over on Derek's show, and it, a little bit of worry. Chris, are you too worried about the weather?
Yes, I'm very concerned.
Okay,
this is like a massive wrench into the weekend. Because this COTA sets the stage for the rest of road courses. I mean, it kind of, Trackhouse was good last year, and we got to see, was surprisingly good at road courses. We saw that at COTA, so it wasn't as much of a surprise. So I feel like we're a little bit ahead of the odds makers just by watching that race. I know that the 99 had a shorter race because of some of the issues after pitting and getting stuck back and then spun. But this has me massively concerned. You don't want, if they practice in the rain, what the hell is that going to do if they're going to race under dry conditions? So not to mention, it does take a long time to dry a 3/4 of a mile track, but they have the rain stuff. And, then it kind of turns into who's the first car to go down and get slicks if they're on rain tires, and who's the first to get rain tires. So I hate this because it limits, I think, pre-race betting. I think it enhances live betting. But if you want to get down before the race, I think that if you're looking at any sort of practice and qualifying with wet tires, and then, to have the race under dry conditions is just, how does this happen? Like, just when NASCAR goes west, it's like places that don't rain. It snows in Southern California. So it was freezing in Atlanta. I mean, it's been a crazy start to the season when it comes to the weather. Just give us a normal weekend, please. That's all we ask.
Thank you. I appreciate that message to the rain gods there, Chris. Let's go ahead and jump over into our tire tiers.
All right, so in just a moment, you'll see a little bit of a change to our tier maker here. We've kind of taken over making it ourselves. Before we were using a generic, 2023 Cup Series tier maker. It's in our hands now. We're only going to have the drivers on the entry list in our tier maker, and we're going to try to also reflect the numbers toward the paint scheme they're running that week. So you'll see the way that the numbers are stylized will look like the way that you'll see them on the track. So before we get into it, there's a few unique entries this week, obviously. Jimmy Johnson is back in the number 84. Jensen Button is going to race the number 15. It's technically under Rick Ware Racing, but Stuart Haas is going to heavily prepare that car. Kimi Räikkönen is in the Project 91 car for Trackhouse. And IMSA driver Jordan Taylor will be in Chase Elliott's car in the 9. And, I don't anticipate this guy to run quite as well as the others, but Connor Daly also is entered this week in the 50 car. So we've got, other than that, our normal 5 tiers and, of course, the circles instead of the squares for the numbers. So, again, making it a little more unique and doing the best to provide the best tier content that we can now that it's an every week thing. And we got the nice visual for you.
Shout out Elliot. Yeah, that looks real nice. We were using paint schemes from like 2008 before this week. So I appreciate that, man. And shout out to Rory, man. Happy birthday, Rory.
Oh, wow.
What are you, 21? Have you had your first beer yet, bud? Chris, so we're going to be using DraftKings and FanDuel or Fantrax rankings and pricing here. And basically, we just want to know, I know not everyone out there plays a ton of DFS, but I know it's still very popular out there as well. So, Chris, if you were making a lineup this week, who is that first driver that you'd be basing your lineup around, the 101, if you would?
Oh, man. I would say, based you can't go wrong with Kyle Larson. I just think that I know bold. I know I'm really going out there on a limb. I would say, I would start with him, and I would think AJ Allmendinger might be kind of the next guy there. I'm not as high on Kyle Busch, is just because we haven't seen the speed. Now, he could unload a rocket and no one would be shocked that he went out there and led a bunch of laps and won the race. I just think right now I want speed in race cars, and I want guys that have run well on road courses in this car. And Kyle Larson has done that. Although he didn't win at Sonoma, he had a great car and probably could have won there, and then obviously won at Watkins Glen. So that's why I'm sticking with Larson.
Okay. Totally understand you on that one. He's top of the board at DraftKings right now. 10,400 for Kyle Larson. Elliot, where are you going here?
I mean, Chris brought him up. I think we got to put Allmendinger up here. I mean, obviously the road courses are the biggest time you're going to look at him. He's number 5 on the board with 9,700 price on DraftKings. I haven't been the highest on Colleague, as I mentioned also in the Through the Field column. Allmendinger has ended up wrecked more times than he's finished cleanly this year, it seems like. But on the road courses, we know that this guy turns it on. This is his bread and butter. This is why he's full-time in the Cup Series again, is for these road courses. Again, who knows if it's going to be at COTA? I have a feeling he's going to win one of these road courses this year and get into the playoffs. Why not at COTA, right?
Oh, he'll win a road course this year. I think that's going to happen.
Yes.
Yeah, I don't mind that play at all, Elliot. I'm definitely going to have a lot of AJ in my lineups this week. I'm going to go with the guy who was fresh off 2 top 5s after really struggling early in the season. That's Tyler Reddick. I think he belongs here at 9,900 on DraftKings. So they are recognizing who this guy is, what he represents here at road courses. But he's got the best average starting position here. Obviously, we have the Toyota factor here, but I don't think it's going to matter. I don't think these are the same Toyotas we had a year ago. I mean, these are completely different cars in my opinion. So I'm not going to be scared off by it. I know everyone else is, but I'm going to stick with my guns here. My research is leading me to Tyler Reddick being possibly the favorite. And I think he's being a little bit underserved on the markets right now. So I'm going to take that value here. I'm going to throw Tyler Reddick in that number 45 car up here in tier 1.
Yeah, I mean, for me, it's just the Toyotas with how bad they ran last year. Right now, they scare the shit out of me, to be honest.
They do. Hopefully everyone.
You can get at least a qualifying in to see if they've got any speed. And if the Toyotas run well at COTA, I'm on board the rest of the year. For now, it is very much, just be cautionary with those Toyotas.
I have a question about the Toyotas here. Let's just say that the Toyotas unload the fastest. Let's just say that's what happens. It's the Toyotas and everyone else. Who's going to be the fastest Toyota? If they all unload fast, I don't know that I put Tyler Reddick the top Toyota. Now, if there's a difference between Gibbs and some of the other teams, which I don't necessarily think that or the other team, I guess. I don't think that that's going to happen. But if you give Martin Truex Jr. a fast Toyota race car on a road course, I mean, that guy can win races. And so Chris Bell, both of those guys are priced lower than Reddick. So although I like Reddick in the recency thing, like maybe just he's better in this car and with this sequential shifter versus the H pattern that Truex was so good at. But I just think it would be fascinating to see what happens. It would throw a complete wrench in this weekend if the Toyota unloaded super fast. I hope it happens.
That's a really good point. I hadn't thought of that. I think it's probably Reddick or Bell ends up the fastest Toyota. What do you think, Seth?
Well, that's where the odds are. They're I think it's plus 145 for Reddick as the best Toyota. I think it's plus 150 for Bell. And then everyone else, it's a big gap after that. So I will talk about Truex a little bit later in the betting market. I do like him there. Chris, who else do you think belongs in this driver A tier? Feel free to throw out a driver or two, however many you please.
Okay. Guys that I think should be in the top tier. I would say, just looking at price, I mean, Ross Chastain's going to be good. I just feel like he's overpriced. Like, I think if you want to look at a value of a guy that should be a top tier guy, I would say Austin Cindric is a top tier road course guy. Like, I know that's not price wise. He's priced lower than Suarez, Blaney, Bell, Byron, Dinger, Reddick, Chastain, Busch, and Larson, but if he gets out there out front, he's going to be tough to pass. If he just gets the lead late in the race, it's not like guys are just going to blow by him. He can outbreak anybody to get the lead. And I think he could stay up front, especially with some clean air. So I would put Cindric there.
I like that call a lot. And this was from Chris on flag hunting. Austin Cindric, #1 in qualifying across all road courses last year in 2022. So he could get out to a fast start. He could pull this thing possibly. At 8,800, I think he's an absolute smash here in DraftKings lineups. Here we have Cleveland Kid weighing in. He says, surely the Toyotas moved heaven and earth over the offseason and improve on road courses. They simply can't be as bad as last year. Yeah, that's kind of where I am. I think you don't go out and get a guy like Tyler Reddick if you don't want to revamp this program. So that's kind of where I am as well. I like that comment there, Cleveland Kid. Appreciate you tuning in, man. Elliot, where do you want to go here? Let's start rounding out this driver A tier.
Well, I got to bring up an anecdote on Cindric. I know we said we weren't factoring in 2021 that much, but in 2021, he was running part-time in that 33, and it was starting to rain. Everyone was moving over to the rain tires, and it was raining, and Cindric was leading and running just as good on the slicks as everyone else was on the rain tires. So this guy knows how to drive COTA. I might take him on COTA over any other road course, to be honest with you. Cindric has kind of been hot and cold at times in his Cup career. He's found it kind of difficult at some points with the road courses. I think that 8,800 is a good price for him. I think he is firmly in the driver A's this weekend. We'll just hope that he pulls it out.
Yes, sir.
So I'm going to go Trackhouse here, but I'll leave your boy Chastain for you, Seth, if you want to pick him. I'm going to put Suarez in driver A. Remember, I believe he won stage 1 last year. He was toward the front, got caught up in the back, ended up spun out. His day didn't quite go so well. Of course, he proved he can run well on road courses, and the Trackhouse's road course performance was no fluke by going out and winning Sonoma. His price being at $9,000, just ahead of Cindric. Not bad. I think firmly in the driver A category.
Yeah, and I'm going to put Ross up here too. And Chris, I do think he is a little bit overpriced here, but everything in my research is saying that Ross belongs in this top tier. Fastest driver late in the run, which matters to me, and an average speed ranking. And let's not forget as well, he had a top 5 the year before he was in this Trackhouse car. So I like him here. I think this is one of his favorite tracks. And Elliot, we rode the juice. We won tournaments last year, and we absolutely crushed it. We hit this outright last year, so I got to keep on Ross here. I don't think he'll win it, but I think he's going to be in the conversation late in that race.
Oh, yeah, no doubt about it. Trackhouse, strong performers at the road courses. All right, Chris, any other driver A's, or you want to start moving down to the B's here? What are you feeling?
Yeah, I think we got the A's covered.
Agreed.
It's crazy we don't have Kyle Busch up there. Like, are we the only 3 idiots on earth that don't have Kyle Busch? Like, is that? I mean,
he's
I have more
price, like you said. If he was at 9,200 instead of 10,200, I'd probably be on him a little more. But
if he just looked fast if he looked fast at Phoenix, I would be all over him. But for him to take a track where he's notoriously really good at throughout the history of his career, he was average, never a threat to win, never really a threat to be in the top 5. So that says to me that maybe that 8 car isn't where it was last year, even though he went out there and won at Fontana.
And I know it's bad juju too, but I just can't take him in this race with no stage breaks. I just feel like he's gonna get spun. He's gonna mess up in the pits. Like, that's just Kyle Busch, man, and might just be bad juju and bad luck, but he's burned me too many times with that shit. So I'm staying away from there. Chris, who can we start out here in the B tiers?
Well, here's the question real quick. We've talked enough about Rowdy. Are we going to dare put him even in the C tier for this race? Let's just get him out of the way.
Well, I mean, we can. I'm going to stay away from Rowdy. I am going to say
how low are we going to put him this week? In
the B tier, I am going to go with Chris Buescher. Yes. I think that there's a lot of value on this kid. It's crazy. I think that Chris Buescher, I wish I could just bet his finishing position at if you could give me 10-1 on him to finish between 6th and 10th. I just think that's where he's going to finish. I don't think he has anything for the top 5, and I don't think he's going to finish outside the top 10. And I just think you get a lot of value with him. He's really good at road course. I mean, he was top 10 in 5 of the 6 races last year. Hell, he was 3 laps down at Indy, had a fire in his car, and battled his way back to a top 10 finish, which is just incredible. So I think Chris Buescher, there's no reason that he shouldn't be priced a little higher than this. I'll take him in my second tier.
Okay. I like that call. Elliot, who do you have for us?
Yeah, that's not bad for Buscher. RFK has looked better. Maybe thinking Keselowski here, but I think B is a little too high. I might have to take Truex from you, Seth. I know you were talking about Martin
That's
Truex
fine.
a little bit. I think at 8,200, he's at a much lower price than we would expect. I saw Hamlin also is only at 8,500. He was kind of interesting to me here too. But these JGR veterans haven't been talked about a whole lot this year. They may show up if Toyota has some speed.
Yeah, I'm going to take your guy then, Alex Bowman there. I'm going to go, guy's got an average finish position of 5 here. And let's not forget, this guy's going to be racing multiple times this weekend as well. He's getting more experience. He loves road courses. You don't think of Alex Bowman when you think of a road course driver, but he low-key is. And at the price, like, Fantrax every single week keeps bumping this guy up. It's harder and harder to fit him in your lineups, but I keep doing it. But on DraftKings, 8,600, averaging just about 39 DK points a week. He's going to be someone I will toss in there. Here we have Alfred in the chat asking, no stage break cautions, only applies to Cup Series, correct?
No, it is
Yeah, it was
all
under the
series.
impression it was all 3 series. Yeah,
It's all 3 series. I just got asked this question earlier today. I didn't realize. Someone asked me, I'm like, well, geez, I don't know. But unless NBC Sports is wrong, I read an article there that said that it will be for all 3 series this week. No
Wade,
caution.
do some
I think you're
digging.
right, Chris.
Wade, do some digging, boys. Appreciate you guys doing that for Alfred. Alfred, appreciate you tuning in, man. Great question, though. Really great question. Chris, back to you, man. Who else do you think belongs in this B tier?
I'm gonna go with Kevin Harvick. Sneaky good road course racer. I think he's had more speed in his race car this year than he had last year. Kevin Harvick has done a great job of just staying out of trouble and finding his way into the top 5 late in the races. I think that's kind of the name of the game in this car. Just kind of assume that you're going to kind of get to the top 5. If you don't have a race winning car, get to the top 5 and then see what happens on a late restart. You see these guys, the Gibbs guys, I think were notorious last year for having clearly the fastest cars and then racing their way out of it with mistakes or, stupid penalties. So I think just find look at Chase all last year. He wasn't the fastest car in more than one half of a race, in my opinion. Watkins Glen and then the second half of Nashville, that's it. And this guy led the points all season just because he found himself staying out of trouble. And I think if Kevin Harvick can do that, he could probably work his way, maybe into the top 5 later in the race, because I don't think he'll qualify well. But I think Kevin Harvick could have a good finish this week.
No, I'll take it, man. Anytime anyone throws the number 4 car up there on this show, we're about it. Elliot, who else do you think here for B? You can round it out if you want.
Well, I brought up Hamlin last time when I was talking about Truex. I think we'll slide Hamlin in the B tier here. Not a super duper good road course driver, but again, if the Toyotas are fast, I expect Hamlin to be right up there in the mix. Price of only 8,500. He's below Bowman, Logano, Cindric, Suarez, some guys who normally he'd be ahead of. So that interests me for Denny Hamlin in the B tier.
Okay. I'm going to put Ryan Blaney up here as well. I think he belongs here. Talk about a guy just consistent at these road courses. Second best average starting position here specifically, and top 5 late run speed as well. So I think he's going to start up towards the front, and I think he's going to run and get you a top 10 finish here. Right now, again, 9,100, like it's an okay price, but if you don't want to play Suarez or you don't want to play Cindric, he's kind of right in that tier as well. And I think he'll actually be maybe lower roster than those other two because we don't think of Ryan Blaney as a great road course driver. So, Chris, anyone else you want to throw in the Bs here or start out our Cs? Up to you, man.
No, I'll start out the Cs. I will take Michael McDowell.
Yes.
I just think he's just a kind of a top 10 guy that just runs well on road courses, good at tire wear tracks, so I think that you can find yourself in a situation where there's guys that are really good in clean air on road courses, and then there's guys that are just, they can get back through the field. I think there's a distinct difference between Ryan Blaney going to the rear and in a fast car and Michael McDowell going to the rear in the fast car. You could also say the same for Austin Cindric. Those road course ringers are going to work their way up through the field much more quickly, and they're not going to use their stuff up as much. And towards the end of the run, I think they can really separate themselves. I think you put Michael McDowell in that category. If he does make a mistake or they have an issue on pit road, he can still fight his way back up and continue to move forward. Whereas guys like Blaney, they tend to struggle when they find themselves at the back of the field, especially at a road course.
Love it.
Yeah, that's a good pick here. McDowell's shown some success on the road courses where we wouldn't have expected it. Front row doing well in the last few years there. We talked about ringers a little bit. I'm going to crack open one of these ringers, and I'm going to put Jimmy Johnson in the C tier. He's at
Oh, yeah.
7,300, right above McDowell. That's a pretty decent price. They're both right at the best level for a driver C. And, some of these other road course ringers don't have the same stock car experience, and some of these other young kids will burn their stuff off fast if they get caught in the back. Neither of those apply to Jimmy Johnson. We know the guy knows how to wheel a stock car, even though the next-gen car is a little different for him. And do I expect Jimmy Johnson to win or even finish top 5? No, I don't. Do I expect him to run well and run good for that price? I do. So I think the 84 car is worth keeping an eye on.
They've been so bad, Legacy, this entire year outside of
Right.
that last lap.
If Legacy had run well this year, I would have put him in the Bs if they were on a hot streak. But they're not. So he's a C, if not even a C- for me, but still worth mentioning.
Yeah, I got to go here with Brad Keselowski. I think he belongs in this tier. And what a difference a year makes for RFK Racing. Elliot, you and I coming into the season, we're absolutely fading this
hard.
team. Yeah, and I don't think he's going to be a top 10 car. I think he's going to finish somewhere between 15th and 19th. That's where his two averages are. He has 2 top 20 finishes here. I don't expect him to crack that top 10. But at a price of $7,900 on DraftKings, that's all you need from him. So I'm okay with that pick. A little bit of a leverage play here from Brad. Chris, any thoughts on Jim Jam or the number 6 car and anyone else you want to add to the C tier here?
Well, I guess I would be more shocked if Johnson went out there and had a more competitive car than Brad. I mean, Brad can drive a race car. They've obviously improved drastically year over year at this point. So, yeah, I mean, I wouldn't be shocked to see, old 7-time out there,
Let's go, baby.
mixing it up, in the top 10. And by the way, if someone's going to steal track position and somehow get a lucky caution, it's going to be Brad Keselowski. That is just what he's made a living doing. Oh, by the way, caution. And Brad steals all this track position. So I think that I wouldn't be shocked if either of them ran right around 10th.
Okay.
Probably a little bit more shocked if Johnson did than Brad.
Awesome. Who else do you think belongs in this C tier? Now we kind of really are getting into that tier that maybe these guys aren't going to be top 10s. They're probably not going to win the race, but they can still get you DraftKings points, and they will make a difference for your lineup here, Chris.
Yeah, maybe not for C. I mean, you have to go you'd have to go back up and pay for Chase Briscoe, but I think even there you're gambling. That team has just not shown speed.
Mm-hmm.
I think if we were to move down to tier D, are you guys okay to do that?
Yeah, absolutely.
Of course, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, this doesn't always have to be a linear draft, just anybody you want to pick out.
I'm gonna say Ryan Preece, even though I have been fading this guy a lot. But I trust him as a driver, and he figured it out at Phoenix enough for me to not win a matchup against him, which was very irritating. But he got a good finish. I think he finished 12th or something like that at Phoenix.
Right.
And you know what? Maybe they get a little bit of momentum. I just have confidence in a driver. I know that he might not have the fastest car out there, but I think if you have some of these technical road courses, he can kind of outlast and kind of be there at the end by not making mistakes. That's what he did in Phoenix. He was not fast by any means. He was lucky with the first stage only being 60 laps. Otherwise, he's the next car to get pinned a lap down. And then when that happens, you're in deep trouble. But he stayed on the lead lap and ended up with a good finish. I think that we could potentially see a decent run out of Ryan Preece. I wish I had seen more out of Justin Haley and AJ Allmendinger at this point this year through the year. Otherwise, I think it's easy a Justin Haley pick, and it still might be. But I just don't think that the 16 and the 31 have just been there. So.
Okay. Yeah, it's hard to trust those colleague cars right now. Elliot, I think we do need a little bit of housekeeping in this C tier. I think Joey Logano belongs there right now. I mean, really good.
Probably Bell too. These are just kind of guys who are overpriced for how well we think they're going to run. So that's another definition of C. They're going to run all right if they don't run into trouble, but they're just at too high a price for us to love in the air to be.
I kind of like Joey Logano, 8,700. That's the lowest you're going to see Logano.
That's a good
on
point.
DraftKings in a long time, averaging just about 37. Byron belongs in this tier as well. I know our guy Rory in the chat, he would put him up in A tier if I let him. But yeah, I think Byron kind of belongs in this tier as well. Anyone else, Elliot, you think that belongs in C, or just want to keep pounding away the D tier here?
Well, I am going to crack open a C, and I have a couple of formal apologies to make for some drivers I faded hard early in the season. Starting with Brad Keselowski. If you remember on the Daytona show, with the price that he was at, I wanted to put him in the E tier. You guys, I think, put him in C or D. I wanted him way at the bottom. I didn't have any faith in RFK or in Brad. I thought he was halfway out the door. The RFK was still needed a lot of work to come back. Both the 6 and the 17 have run well, and Keselowski has shown me he's still got life in the tank. So apologies to him. And we're starting to get into some deep value picks here. Ryan Preece only at 6,000. We brought up Haley. He's at 6,200. Another apology I need to make, and another deep value that may even warrant C tier placing is Corey LaJoie. He's at 5,100.
Oh, he's so bad at the road courses.
He's bad at the road courses, but he's been bad everywhere else too. And Spire has consistently run better this year. It's not even just the 4th at Atlanta that impressed me. It's the fact that this has been a top 20 to 25 car.
Yeah,
and that has not been the case ever with Spire. I have done nothing but fade Spire essentially since they've come into the sport. Maybe they are finally proving me wrong. They've proved me wrong on multiple occasions. I think LaJoie is on the upswing. I think Spire could be on the upswing with a fiery driver like LaJoie in there. And at that deep of a price, even though the road course stats are not there at all, he had 3 finishes, 34th or worse on road courses last year. At that price and with this momentum, I think I got to throw him in my lineups.
Okay. And listen, man, you're talking the Corey LaJoie stan. I've been yelling it from mountaintops for weeks to get him in DK lineups. I did just he wasn't good on road courses last season, so I'm staying a little.
Awful. He had a couple of decent runs. He was decent at the chaos of the Indy road course, I believe, and he was okay at the Roval. But other than that, yeah, bad on road courses. I have faith at that price that maybe he can turn it around. I would chuck him in a few lineups.
I am going to throw Justin Haley in that tier as well. I mean, he has been solid if you guys need a leverage play at the bottom. I continue to throw him in, averaging just about 27 DK points a week. So I like Justin Haley. And guys, I'm going to do it. I'm going to throw the Half-Blood Prince, Ty Gibbs, in this one as well. I think he deserves, came out and shocked us all, I feel like, about how good of a road course guy that he was. 6,600. I don't think he's going to come in and dominate this, but I think he does have enough for a top 20 here. So I'm going to go with the number 54 car. Chris, any thoughts on LaJoie, Gibbs, and anyone else you want to throw here in the D's or E's?
What did you call it? The Half-Blood Prince?
Half-Blood Prince, baby. Let's go.
Where on earth did you get that one from?
I don't know. It just felt right, You just felt right.
We're going to remember that one here.
Yeah, I don't mind Ty Gibbs. He obviously was great in the Xfinity series at road courses, but man, you put anybody in the 54 and they're fast at a road course or any track for that matter. So, I think some of these guys at the back of the pack, you just have to look for the guys that are super patient and good drivers to just avoid the wrecks or just avoid the penalties and find themselves, right around 15th. And just because even though they're a 20th to 25th place car, they've just kind of mind their P's and Q's and have gotten things done and find themselves with a good finish. So, LaJoie, I feel like, is probably a little overvalued coming off of little overvalued for LaJoie on a road course. But I also agree with Elliot that Spire has outperformed expectations this year without question. And it's almost as if the entire NASCAR all of the fans were just willing him to get into a top 5 or even get a chance to win last week. So he's quite the crowd favorite. But yeah, I guess, I don't have much I don't know how Ty Gibbs is going to do. Like, I'm just not quite sure. We still have a lot to learn here this weekend. And that's kind of where I sit on those group 2. By the way, is Jordan Taylor on here?
I did not see him in the prices, and I think that's because some of these road course ringers were still TBA on the entry list, even as recently as this morning, just because of paperwork and stuff like that. He's on the entry list now. He is going to be in that 9 car. I don't see a price for him, and I was actually going to start to crack open the discussion on these ringers. You got Taylor in the 9, Kimi Räikkönen in the 91, Jenson Button in the 15. I'm wondering what the group consensus is on these guys because, road course ringers used to be much more of a thing. We had Boris said getting Xfinity wins up in Montreal there. But with, it's so much harder for the road course ringers in this sense to be good nowadays, partially because there's so many and everyone just runs better on road courses than they did 10 years ago.
Yeah, I don't think I can really like. I think they honestly all belong in the E tier. If we're gonna say that, to be honest, if you want to bump up the number 9 car when we get that price, we can see. I don't think he's gonna be too
I think
much.
he's going to be overvalued because he's in the 9. If it was Jordan Taylor in the 15, he'd probably be at a good price. I think Jensen Button maybe coming into this past his prime, just using this race to get practice for the Garage 56 thing at Le Mans. Kimi Räikkönen, I mean, Trackhouse is good at road courses. He was running okay, I think, at the Glen last year before getting involved in a wreck. But yeah, unless one of these guys comes out, they're all going to be running, well, maybe not Jordan Taylor, but I think Button is running 2 other road courses, and Kimi and other drivers are going to be in Project 91 later this year. But this is kind of like I feel with the Toyotas. This is too early. I'm on a wait-and-see approach. If one of them runs well, then they can be in consideration when we get to Sonoma and the other courses down the road. The other road courses, no pun intended there. That was kind of funny. But yeah, it's just wait and see with these guys.
Chris, are you with us here in the E tier with these ringers, as I call them?
Yeah, I agree. I think if I had to pick the biggest upside would be Jordan Taylor. I think you just look at Hendrick Motorsports and the fact that he's driven more closed wheel stuff than some of these other open wheel guys. Albeit they've probably raced. I mean, I just think that he has the most upside. I will say full disclosure, when he opened at 40-1, sellable on FanDuel, I did nibble there just because I don't want to be caught with my pants down and all of a sudden have this guy qualify top 4. I mean, I'll even sell it at a loss, but I feel like the upside at 40-1 is not bad. And
there is upside there. I agree.
And the other thing too is if these road course ringers are going to be good at something, it's going to be qualifying. When you have a clean track, you have clearly Hendrick is faster than anybody right now. So if there's someone that really could find themselves with a good qualifying spot, I do think it's Jordan Taylor. Do I think he can win the race? No, I'm just trying to steal a little value at FanDuel. But other than that, I think you guys are right. I think Button's going to struggle. If I had to pick someone, I mean, usually their first time in these big, heavy cars, they don't have a clue. They're more of a ping pong ball out there, just bouncing off everything. So I think you guys are pretty accurate. I agree with everything you guys are saying with the ringers. So, but again, we'll see what happens when they unload on Friday.
Yeah, absolutely. The only other guy I'm interested on this list playing at all that I'm going to put up in these tiers, and then I'm done adding it if you guys want to, it's Austin Dillon. This guy does have the 6th best average finish here at COTA. Again, one of those is coming in that rainstorm. However, 6,400, that's, again, the best price you're going to get on him all season as well. So Austin Dillon, I'll take the shot on. He's been god-awful as of lately. He has not helped you. However, I'm going to ride with him here at that price tag. Elliot, anyone else you want to throw up in the tiers here? And I don't even – what number is Button? I'm not even sure what number he is.
He's in the 15. You threw him on
15.
Okay.
It's going to be it's an SHR car, but I think Ryan Preece ran it last year, the 15 car with the support of SHR. So essentially an SHR car, kind of out of that.
Yeah, I think you could put him in a car that runs 5 miles an hour faster than everybody else, and he still probably wouldn't win the race. So it's no insult to him. He's a great driver. I just think he's a little, he's an older guy. He even said himself, I don't expect to be running up front. I don't expect to be competitive. These guys are good, but I want to get out there and learn. So
we got NASCAR Fantasy Live saying no.
Right, we talked about KFB. I brought up the point, where do we want to put him, and nobody answered. So
yeah, my apologies.
C tier for KFB, right?
Chris, make the call here.
Well, listen. I mean, based on price, I would say, listen, Kyle could go out there, pull it, lead every damn lap, and no one would be shocked. However, I would expect the guys that were able to do that, if you look at just the guys who ran well here last year, that's those top 3. You had a road course ringer and Allmendinger. You had Chastain, who was really good at both Vegas and Fontana and Phoenix. And then you look at Alex Bowman, won at Vegas, had a lot of speed. So the cars that were fast those first 3 races were really fast, but they were fast in like all of the races. Kyle Busch was fast at Fontana, which is a clear anomaly. I would put Kyle Busch in tier B or driver. Yeah, I will say B. Like, he's still Kyle Busch. He's going to finish in the top 10.
And honestly, I saw him, but I saw the number 11 with the Interstate Batteries logo, and like I for some reason thought that was Kyle Busch. Not even thinking about the numbers here. So need to get used to that number 8 scheme a little bit here. Bubba Wallace, does he belong on this list at all here? Elliot, you can't. He had some speed at some of these road courses, but he just gets a little wily out there, you know?
Yeah, I think sometimes he can get frustrated. He's not the best road course driver. I don't see a lot of. I mean, he's priced low enough. He's under Raikkonen, McDowell, Jimmy Johnson, Jones. He's at 6,900. I don't see value for Bubba this week.
Even if he qualifies 6th in 10 laps, he's going to be in 15th.
Okay,
That's what I think.
Chris, round us out here. Anyone else you want to throw on this list that deserves to be ranked this week?
Well, I think Chase Briscoe deserves to be ranked. I mean, where, I'm not quite sure. Probably at least C. Eric Jones, you feel like,
yeah,
they just haven't shown much. I'll tell you who doesn't deserve to be ranked is the 42. You can just put him dead ass last. What a terrible start to a season. And I think he's going to be really good.
I do too. I
really do think that this guy's going to be racing for championships in NASCAR. But what the hell is going on right now? He can't even keep it on the lead lap, let alone 2 laps down, not get penalties. So Noah's having a very Noah type year, in my opinion. It wouldn't shock. I would love to see him race for a win at some point this year, but he's got a long way to go to finish on the lead lap at this point.
Yeah. I mean, with Gragson, it's just the toughest time in NASCAR to be a rookie. You're not practicing every week, if even any week. Bubba in the driver F list. That was my thoughts. But yeah, with some of these guys, just a quick run through the rest of the board here. Almirola, SHR we're not high on, and Almirola usually gets kicked rocks on.
Yeah, put him in. He's
Harrison Burton, another type of deal, just a young guy who just hasn't quite gotten it yet. Todd Gilliland is Todd Gilliland. I don't know what else to say. Stenhouse, does Stenhouse have any value at the road courses? Probably not. Connor Daly, that 50 car is not going to finish the race. Cody Ware. Ty Dillon is doing nothing in the other spot car. Josh Bilicki in the 78, more of a road course guy. Maybe a top 30.
we're really going to hit on top 30s now. Oh man, this is a very thorough podcast.
Talk about every driver in the field. I gave him a sentence.
All right.
Cleveland kid, he's asking, is Ty Dillon broken? Yeah.
So here's my theory about Spire is that now they're finally putting all their resources into the 7. They had a rotating cast in the 77. They wanted to try to please drivers, I think. They wanted to try and pull out the 2-team game. They realized they can't do it. So the 7 is getting all the focus. Ty Dillon is only there as a funded driver. I'm sorry. That's just what he is. We know that his older brother is better. He must have got fed bigger helpings from the silver spoon. It's not there for Ty Dillon. It's not there for the 77. Spire finally putting all their eggs in the correct basket with the driver with more upside with LaJoie.
Ty should go back down to the Xfinity Series and find a decent ride and go win some races again. Like, what are you doing?
He got the Gibbs car and didn't run well in it. So.
I don't know.
Yeah.
And I think, Seth, I know you're going to be upset by it. You were high on him in the 42 a couple races last year. Ty Dillon is a competitive driver in Cup, maybe even Xfinity. It's just over.
This is a week-by-week basis type of thing. I might love one driver one week, and I did love him for the first half of last year. But, yeah, I've since sold those stocks. So, guys, let's go ahead and hop into the betting portion here. That is our tiers as we head into this first road course of this season. And let's go ahead and jump into some parking garage props.
I'm excited to see what you guys have for the props this week, but with the tire tiers, that's why it excites me. We're doing it every week. We may be one of the only shows out there that, we gave at least 2 words on every driver in the field. Even if it was just me saying Todd Gilliland is Todd Gilliland, boom, we talked about Todd Gilliland in the live NASCAR show this week, where many others probably are not. So that's the fun of the tire tiers and the fun of the props too. We search the books, we pick out some good stuff for you, and I'm excited to hear some of the stuff you guys are looking at earlier this week. I got some fun specials a little later, but in terms of your outrights, top 3s, 10s, so I'm excited to hear what you guys got.
Yeah, Chris, what was your overall impressions of the books this week? Because it's obviously the first road course of the season, so I think we got a little bit of mixed bags out there right now.
Yeah, I mean, outside of, a few books like, Circa, the odds are pretty much kind of painted very similarly across the board. FanDuel maybe had a few outliers there as well, but I don't know. I feel like, offerings are great. listen, if you're gonna, you have to have a for and against price. If you're gonna have guys at minus 700 to finish in the top 10, you got to offer a not in top 10 price to at least hold them accountable for this bullshit that they lay. That's just not. It's just not a thing. It's not a fair market. And there were a few places I think. I think you have to have a Barstool account or access to Canby if you're going to be competitive in some of these prop markets. They have by far the best top 5 and top 10 prices. So that's kind of where I look. I was able to nibble some stuff and then get limits lowered without even hitting a bet. So I can talk about some of that stuff if you want. But I mean, at this point, I have made a couple plays, but nothing significant at this point.
Anything in the outright market or in the fastest qualifier market?
If you have access, I don't have access to circa prices, but Todd does. And I was able to pick up, I just nibbled so small on just Truex at 39-1 and Denny at 39-1 on the off chance that Toyota show up. I think that they'd just be great protection. And then, like I said, I have the JT. I call him JT now for whatever reason. I act like Jordan Taylor and I are best friends, but with JT and I go way back. I did nibble him at 40 just because I thought that was kind of a longer price on a guy that is in the best equipment on road courses the last 5 years in NASCAR. So if he has a shred of talent and he finds himself qualifying well, I'd unload it. I don't think I'd keep it. If I sold it for a profit, I'd be happier, and I'd be happy and just unload the whole thing. So that's what I've done in the outright market. I do have some top 5 or some top 10 that I gave out, but that's moved drastically and not available. And that's AJ Allmendinger at minus 122 and minus 132 to finish in the top 10. So those are the two that from an outright, I guess.
Okay. Yeah, I'm with you on MTJ. I actually already have a little sprinkle on him at 30-1 is the best number I could find. But this is a guy 8th in average speed ranking here last year. And he was really slow at the beginning of last year's race here. And he kind of figured it out towards the end. And I don't know if this is just me, but I think you can factor the clash a little bit. That's at least you're making tight corners. And Truex came out and looked good at the clash when I was all fading him. Had all my matchups against him that week. So I like Truex at 30-1. Feels like a little bit of a value. I'm there with you, Chris. And also kind of sticking here, I just have a feeling, man, that Tyler Reddick is going to go out and pull this son of a bitch. I know nobody wants to be on that with me because they're afraid of Toyotas. But this is a guy, like I said, he's hot coming into this one. Average best, 4th best average finish here. 100% top 10 rate here in his career, including that rainy race, and 2nd overall in average speed rankings on road courses and at COTA. And if you guys remember too, I just think Kurt Busch looked fast. He looked fast in this car at times, got a little wily, but overall I like him there. I also like him at plus 600 for the fastest qualifier. I'm going to be taking a piece of him there. Also taking a piece of Cindric, plus 650 on that bet as well. I think between those two, I think it's one of those two who are going to win that. Ryan Blaney, maybe he could pull it, or Logano plus 1,600. Is there anything in that market, the fastest qualifier, that you want a piece of, Chris?
I mean, what's William Byron? I haven't even looked at fastest qualifier, but I mean, you got to stick with the fast cars, in my opinion. I mean, what Larson did last week, or I say last week because I don't even count Atlanta, but he did it.
Last real race at Phoenix.
Yeah, the last real race. What he did at Phoenix was, I mean, 3/10 faster than the field. I mean, what are we even talking about here? So,
plus 1,200 right now.
Yeah, I think that I would look there, but I don't bet a ton on that stuff. I do like Cindric. Obviously he's the kind of the best average qualifier on road courses, I would imagine. I don't have that information right in front of me, but I'm just not high on Reddick. I just think if the Toyotas are fast, he's not going to be the fastest Toyota. I would say Chris Bell will out-qualify him if Toyotas are fast.
Okay.
I would say.
Okay.
But I've been wrong before, and
yeah.
But that's just what I think right now is if Reddick's going to be good, he's going to be good late in the run. He's not going to have the top end speed that Gibbs will have. So that's where I'm at.
Okay. I understand that. Here's one I think we can all get on, and this is, let's go to those placement prop markets, and I'm going to go Blaney top 10 plus 105. I thought that was a pretty generous number over on Barstool for him. 4th in average speed ranking here, 10th overall at road courses in terms of speed ranking as well. And again, this is a guy, he qualifies well here. He has speed late in the run as well. So 3 top 10s already in 5 races. I haven't bet him yet this year, and I think it's time to get on board now. Chris, any interest there? Anything else in the top 10, top 5 market that we should be on that you haven't mentioned?
I did, like I said, I did take Allmendinger for crumbs on Hard Rock. Yeah, Hard Rock had I had to unfortunately cash out on my, because then I tried to bet. Sorry, there's a siren going if you guys can hear that. But I tried to get, the only other prop I tried to bet, and this comes from Bird's Finger, was that Cindric top Ford at 4.5 to 1 at Hard Rock. Unfortunately, they only took $100, and so I was just all pissed off and cashed out and was like, no, you're not getting my business for that. So but I do think that's a great, I thought that was a great find. I didn't even know how to find this bet on Hard Rock. It took me 20 minutes to figure out how to find the bet, and I mean, I do this for a living, and it took me that long. So maybe their user experience isn't that great on their website, but yeah, I think that I like Cindric top Ford at 4.5 to 1. I think that's a good bet in my opinion.
That's a deep cut. I like that. I've never heard of betting that number specifically, but yeah,
I like Hard Rock either. Damn.
Yeah, they're trash. They took a decent sized bet on Allmendinger, and so I was like, oh, I'll deposit more money because I want to get this top Ford bet, and then $104. Well, by the way, like $104.63. Like, where did they come up with that number? Like, how do you get like 63 cents? So I quickly cashed out. I didn't even make the bet. So I know the MGM has like plus 390 or something like that. But yeah, I think that's I love that bet. I think that's really good. And like I said, credit goes to Birdfinger. He's the guy that found that one out.
Yeah. Hopefully Hard Rock never wants to sponsor us, because I think we just shot ourselves in the foot with that one. But appreciate the play nonetheless here. Let's move over into the matchup segment of the show. And Dinger, plus 100 still on DraftKings, guys. I thought by the time we came here on Thursday that this would be gone. I unloaded a good bit on this when I saw this. I think it was on Tuesday. It just makes no sense. Why I get William Byron has had a rocket all season long, but he's only been overall 13th best in average speed rankings on road courses last season. Dinger 9th best, and that was as a non-full-time driver. Byron 11th is his best finish here as well. So I just don't think he's necessarily a guy I want to put my money into. But Dinger top 5 here in speed ranking. And I just think overall he's going to be the guy late. He's going to find his way up there like he always does. I am a little bit worried that maybe he shoots himself in the foot with a pit road penalty. But I think outside of that, I think Dinger's a lock for a top 10, and I don't think Byron is. So I'll take the plus money here on Dinger. Elliot, any interest in that one? Because I know you were kind of on Dinger a little bit in the outright market as well.
Yeah, that's not bad. I have another one of the head-to-heads I have picked out. I believe this was from Barstool, was Dinger plus 115 over Larson, who was minus 150. Obviously, that's tough. Larson's the favorite. He's going to run well, but I think Allmendinger's going to run well. And all it takes is just one position higher. You know, they can run 3rd and 4th, and if Allmendinger is 3rd, that wins that bet. And the other head-to-head that I see, Kimi Räikkönen plus 113 over Jordan Taylor minus 148. Obviously, they showed the difference between a Hendrick car and the Trackhouse car. But I don't know. I don't mind Kimi at that price on plus money over Jordan Taylor.
Chris, thoughts?
I would say the one that I probably disagree with, the only one I disagree with would be that Kimi and Jordan Taylor. And I just think that's a gamble. I try to avoid gambling, but I do think that you're spot on with those other ones. You know, I think that Dinger and Larson are a coin toss, right? So if you're going to give me plus 115 in a coin toss, you're going to make money long run. So I like that. Seth, what was yours again? I also agreed with it.
AJ Allmendinger plus 100 versus Byron.
Yeah, I think you're spot on with that too. I don't know. Maybe I'm gun shy because not that I've been burned on Byron, but man, we just haven't seen speed like that. And the kid he's a good driver. And, you know, here's the thing. If Byron unloads slow, I mean, he ain't running up through the field. I can tell you that
Right
now.
right
He is,
right
you know what he's got the first 5 laps in practice. It's like he has a race winning car or he's going to struggle to finish in the top 10. And I think that you're not going to see that with a guy like AJ Allmendinger. He's not going to struggle to get into the top 10. If he does, I think he might just quit NASCAR because he's not exactly level-headed. I'm going to pull one from, and I have not played this yet, full disclosure, but I'm kind of curious some of the comments if people have. Kevin Harvick is -110 on Ty Gibbs at Betfred.
Really?
And
Really?
I think I kind of like that. I also did this. I think I took him. This was the same bet, but I think I paid like -165 at Indy road course last year, and that worked out terribly. So just because Ty was able to squirt through all that BS at the end. But I just think, I think the cooler head prevails here. I think Harvick's shown more speed than he has in the past. And I think he's kind of getting the hang of this car. I would love to see him. If he runs well on road courses, Kevin Harvick could be in the mix for the chase. The championship. You've got 6 road courses. He ran well at the Roval last year, kind of surprised me. And it's funny, I know all these things because I bet against him that day, and he ran so well. So a lot of my knowledge comes from bad bets where I was like, man, they were shockingly better than I thought they were going to be. But that would be the one matchup that I'm looking at. It's at Betfred, and it's Harvick -110 over Ty. Now, I'm just steering clear of Jordan Taylor. I think that when we talked to Regan Smith, he said, I wouldn't be shocked if he won the race, and I wouldn't be shocked if he finished 30th. And I think that that's probably a little bit biased towards him running better. I'd be more shocked if he won than if he finished 30th.
Yeah.
I mean, let's be honest, but
right.
I just feel like that's a gamble. And I don't know Jordan Taylor that well. And I just try to, that's the one thing that I avoid where I see a lot of like casual bettors. My goal is to bet as much as I can and not lose. Like losing bets is just devastating for me. So if I can just have 3 or 4 winners and maybe just kind of keep a small card on matchups, that's my goal. So I'm just staying away from those road course ringers just because what if Kimi figures it out? I mean, I don't know. Could he be in the top 5? We know there's enough speed in the 91 to get there. So, if all of a sudden something clicks or they hit a setup or they just feel comfortable or they end up in the rain and maybe these guys like are better in the rain, who knows? There's a lot to kind of decipher there. And so I'll just stick with my Harvick over Ty. I'm curious to hear what people say that are watching if they like that.
Rory says he likes Harvick -115 over Truex. I don't personally I wouldn't make that bet. But he does like the Gibbs one. So
have another Busch latte there, Rory. I'm not in any mood to fade Truex. Just I don't know. Truex. I'd be more shocked if Harvick won than Truex won. Right. I guess if that's a barometer for where I'm at.
Yeah, I'm with you there as well. Elliot, anything else in the matchup department or in some of these group bettings that you're taking a look at here that we haven't touched on?
Yeah, I'll throw out a couple more here. And that's part of the beauty of the different mindsets we get in the community. Chris is all about, I need to make as much money as I can without getting burnt. Me just throwing a little bit of beer money in it, hypothetically. I'm going to take some of these long shots. So that's usually when I bring up these specials, I look at some of the fun stuff like that. And one thing that I found, I forget if it was Barstool or Caesars, forgive me. They have a bet +575 for any driver to sweep the stages and also win the race. If there were the stage cautions, no chance in hell that's happening. But because there are no stage cautions, the field is not going to be flipped as much. If you have a situation where 1 or 2 guys are dominant, I feel like at +575, maybe that's worth a shot. What do you guys think?
Well, I think the last guy at the road course, and like I said, I'm not looking at anything. I have our Barstool odds up, and then I have our DK salaries up. But I think that Larson at Sonoma in 2020, maybe, or 20, I think it was 2020 or 2021. I think he would have 21 then. I think he did that. I mean, he was just dominant. I mean, no one had anything for him. And if someone does catch a setup, I think if Larson catches a setup, Dinger catches a setup, or Kyle Busch catches a setup, I don't see any. If those guys are good and qualify well, I think you're right. I think we're going to see a lot of green flag racing, and everyone's so excited not to see these cautions. But I'll tell you what, I think after 30 laps of green flag racing,
good point.
fans are going to be begging for a caution because someone could have like an 8 or 9 second lead. And if you get out that far, I mean, you're pinning cars a lap down when they're pitting all of a sudden, and now you have a completely different race. And, we kind of take these stage cautions for granted. So, so Sonoma 21.
Right. 2020, he didn't run most of the year, so 21.
Oh yeah, that's right. That's right. But yeah, I think you're onto something there. I think these cars they're edgy, but I don't think they're necessarily edgy at road courses. Mm-hmm. And I think that you're able to kind of catch the car more and really push the limits. I think you're going to see a lot of green flag racing. I don't think it's a bad play.
Yeah, and that was part of the sticking point with next gen is that it's going to run a hell of a lot better on road courses.
Yeah.
Yeah, plus 575. That's on Barstool. Just anyone out there because honestly, I'm a little intrigued by that myself. I think that one might be one I add to my card as well. So
one on FanDuel, 2 stages or a win. So two not 2 stages or it's just 2 stages including a win, and that's even money. So if you're just concerned about maybe something weird happening or a caution, you're not getting that 575 payout, but it also reduces your risk by 33% there. Something to think about as well.
Certainly. Elliot, unload the rest of your card here for us.
Yeah, we're running a little late here, so I'll throw out one more, though. Some of the long shots on which team is going to win the race from Barstool. Colleague and Stuart Haas are at plus 1,100, RFK at plus 1,400. Obviously not a lot of favorites there short of Allmendinger, but we've expressed some, iffiness about Dinger and the Colleague cars. But if you got a feeling on Dinger, if you got a feeling on Harvick, if you got a feeling on Chris Buescher running really well, that's a lot of plus money to throw out there for a long shot bet.
I'm surprised that they're honestly that good, offering that good of money on those. I wouldn't think Colleague would be that high with where Dinger is right now.
Mm-hmm.
Chris, any final thoughts here? We do have a couple questions I want to get to before we round it out. But any final bets that you're on that we haven't talked about so far?
No, that's I'm pretty light before practice and qualifying, at least at this point in the season. Just don't have. I'd like to see one road course before I start to, make a lot of plays earlier in the week. Remember, earlier in the week, my only goal is to predict where the market's going. So the only bets I make are where I think that I'm going to be beating the market. And, the goal is to just reduce the hold that the casino has in the outright market. So that's why I have the 2 long shots in Hamlin and Truex. So other than that, I just don't know where the market's going to head. So I'm just kind of going to stay on the sidelines until we see practice and qualifying. And hopefully we see that, and hopefully we see it dry for both. That would be my hope. Or if anything, just practice dry. I don't care about qualifying. Yeah. Just turn qualifying into like a slip and slide. I do not care about that. I want to have something dry. And Chris, do you handicap the Hendrick Motorsports driver differently with neither team having their regular crew chief? Also with no stage breaks as well, but hurt. I don't know how much the crew chief. Apparently they're like at the track. I don't know. I think right now Hendrick has speed in their race cars, and that's the most important thing. Right. I don't think that it's not like strategy is not going to like Cliff Daniels is still making the strategy calls, in my opinion. Like I'm pretty sure that they're a text away or even on the radio at some point. So I don't think I'm not going to handicap that any differently. It's a good question. I haven't thought too much about it. I'd be curious to see the trends on what happens with drivers with suspended crew chiefs, whether they run, better than average or worse. I doubt they run better, but how much worse than average they run. But that's a good question.
Yeah, that's interesting to look into also. But in terms of the Hendrick guys, if you're going to look at one guy this will affect the least, it's got to be Bowman. The other guys have got, different engineers or things like that as their backup crew chiefs. For Bowman, it's the guy he's worked with for every cup race up until the first 5 of the season. So they'll be the closest to normal theoretically. But yeah, that will be interesting to keep an eye on. Maybe we'll start to tabulate those stats a little bit, see how these Hendrick guys run. The appeal is set for mid next week. They just set that, so we'll see if the crew chiefs are out another 2 weeks or just for these 2 weeks. But that is definitely an interesting point. Again, these guys, the original crew chiefs were probably heavily involved in the setup plan at the shop. They are going to be involved in the strategy decisions. It's not like that they're completely hands off while they're suspended. So maybe very marginal effects, but I wouldn't expect it to be too crazy.
Yeah, good point there, Elliot. Well, guys, we appreciate everyone tuning in tonight. Great viewership that I'm already seeing. So thank you guys so much. We hope you're subscribed to us at IBT. We got a lot of stuff going on. Fantasy football season, it's still going. We're still making some lineups, still doing some drafts right now. Same with the PGA season. It's in full swing as well. Chris, thank you again for coming on tonight, sharing your knowledge with us and our community over here at IBT. How can we best support you throughout the remainder of the 2023 NASCAR season?
Yeah, just give me a follow at Chris Werme 15, ChrisWerme15 on Twitter. And then obviously follow Todd Furman on Twitter, and then Bet the Board Pod. That's the Stay Green podcast comes out every Thursday. So it came out this morning. And then, my pre-race show, which is usually about 2 hours before the race. It's called the Pre-Race Poll, where I just kind of give a rundown after practice and qualifying and give as much information as I possibly can about every single driver and where I think they're going to finish. And so far, picked a couple winners. Picked Kyle at California, and then I picked Byron at Vegas, and then I picked, unfortunately, Larson at Phoenix. That was a real dud. So hopefully pick a winner again this week, and always answer questions. It's really interactive. So bring your questions, and I'll answer as much as I can. And at least try to have this hive mind mentality, which I think is awesome because I learned so much. I mean, I stole a couple of bets from Bird's Finger. I thought he did a great job. And every week I'm always learning something new from someone else in the community. So I feel like we're kind of a very informed group of people, and I can learn from everybody. And I hope that maybe some people can learn from me as well.
100%, man. You have the knowledge. We greatly appreciate you sharing it with us. Elliot, take us home, man.
Yeah, this has been a fun one tonight. Hey, the Cup Series is going to take those left and right turns with us this week, just like we do every week, rolling down the back road. Thanks again for coming with us. Good luck at COTA, and we'll see you again this time next week.